Elentila Lumenomentiervo. Welcome to Tolkien on Tap. I'm TJ. Grab a drink and enjoy. Almia. Let's shift real quick to let's go back to Frodo and let's talk about why we think that people view Frodo I mean, we know why people view Frodo the way they view Frodo. And it's because
Mm,
of, for better or worse, the way he was portrayed and written in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
yes.
But I'm going to say, for the record, for all time, that is not that character. Like people talk about Faramir's character assassination drink. Um, Frodo had the worst character assassination. I will stand on that. Scott, you and I talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
I will stand on that forever because,
Well, I think you're right.
yeah, because that one character who has a brother named Boromir, um, while he is like very different, very, very, very different from his book portrayal, in that movie he makes sense. And you never hear someone go, well, that character fucking sucks. He's such a whiny
No,
bitch.
you don't.
But you hear people say that constantly about Frodo. And I'm not saying that Frodo doesn't make sense in that context of that movie, but
I think the context is the issue.
explain that. Expand on that, Scott.
Like when you're talking about the ring, look, I understand when you're talking about the ring and the influence on it being like a drug.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's kind of a like I get what they meant when they said that, but when you put somebody in that context when the ring itself is not a drug, it's a dominating force. It has a will of its own. It's not innocent cocaine or heroin sitting there that actually has a good medicinal purpose for some things, right? Like they use that stuff all the time now, right? But it is a malevolent, dominating thing,
Yeah.
right? And so to to even reduce that to like we're gonna make it like a drug means you've put Frodo in a context that Frodo's character can't translate from the book to that because then you make him in the movie a junkie, right? He's a junkie trying to withstand taking a hit of the next fix,
Right.
not a good dude that took a huge burden on himself to save humanity. And he is fighting a demonic force that wants to crush his soul. And so
Right.
you've made the context wrong. So you have the wrong character. He
Mm-hmm.
becomes a whiny little bitch in the movie because you've made the thing that he's supposed to be handling crack that whispers every once in a while in his
Mm-hmm.
ear and wants him to go invisible. And so that's why I think the context even for him is wrong, which is why you have a totally wrong character. And it just kind of it just stuck sideways in my craw, that whole thing of like how he was portrayed that way. And then the yeah, well, we can always talk about specifics, but yeah, I think
Okay, hey, tangent, man.
okay,
Let it
well,
out.
that's why it pisses me off so much about why he sent Sam away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, even that yeah, it's just fundamentally misrepresenting who Frodo is and Frodo's relationship with Sam. Like in that, like I get you're trying to say, well, we're trying to say Frodo's fucked up. How have you not done that so far?
Right.
Right. And so, but because you got this in your head, we're gonna make the ring like a drug, you've got a fucked up Frodo that's never going to even remember. Now, I mean, maybe he's too cracked out to remember Legolas's name, but I'm just saying, you know.
Nice.
But
Nice pull. Nice.
thank you very much. But like that's the thing that kind of pisses me off, and that's why, like I said, when I talk about this stuff, I'm a themes guy and like a motifs guy and all that kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember themes and motifs and that kind of stuff from stories more than like this specific event of something, unless it
Yeah.
sticks out of my head of like this kind of illustrates things. But yeah, but that's why the movie's so fucked up. And if your only exposure to Frodo is the movies, then of course you're gonna think he's a whiny bitch because that's how they put him in the movie.
And I
But
also honestly don't think he's actually a whiny
I don't
bitch.
think
Like
he's that bad.
No.
But it's just
he's a bit
what is a
more
little
he
what's a little bitty hobbit gonna do when you have
yeah.
the Dark Lord?
Yeah.
Like there's so much of Sauron. Like let's not forget, so much of Sauron is in that ring that when it's destroyed,
Mhm.
he's a wisp on the. He's nothing at that point. He
Mhm.
is just
A malevolent spirit
yeah that
a
can't even
malevolent benign
interact.
spirit gnawing at himself in the darkness.
Yeah, that can't even
Uh,
interact with anything anymore. And
Hmm.
so that much of Sauron is weighing around Frodo's neck.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a heavy burden to carry. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sam, if I'm not worried about potatoes. You know, I'm trying not to have my soul possessed by this motherfucker. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you know, I can see how they made like a misstep in some of that in portraying Frodo in the movie, but it's the whole thing
Oh,
of
let me
like
add to
we're
that,
gonna make
Scott.
it a what?
Let me add to that, Scott,
Yeah, go
because you're
ahead. Yeah, I'll
saying
shut up.
like you said you drew on something that's a very, very good point. You're saying like they want to show how messed up Frodo is at this point, and I get like maybe that's why they wanted to same way, and it might have been, and it might have worked. I doubt it would have worked. I
Mm-mm.
kind of hurt myself saying that. But they already
I'm
did
out.
that.
No,
Like,
I'm just
yeah, exactly.
kidding.
Yeah. Well, fuck it, I'm leaving. Um, but not long before that happens, they are in front of Minas Morgul, and Frodo can't stop himself from walking to Minas Morgul because of the ring. So, like, you're already showing that the influence, the closer he's getting to Mordor, is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And then you have to do this like Gollum throws away the food and puts crumbs on Sam's shirt, and like, oh, we're gonna insert fat joke to get Frodo to leave
Well, you've
Sam.
got you've got you've got the weight of the chain on Frodo's neck that you
Yeah,
can
that too.
see even like it's cutting into him. Just a little ring hanging on his neck is cutting into him. And so you've done a good. It is not uh it's not hard to see how Frodo is tortured by this whole thing,
Yeah.
no.
right? It's not hard to see at all. He's already got the stab from Weathertop, right? That clearly
Mhm.
fucked with him. And then you've got just the all along the way. Like it just is so I feel like they got lost in that, like trying to show the burden of the
Hmm.
ring. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, what do you mean you were
Well,
trying to
the
show the
thing is,
burden of the ring? The
it's like they were trying
motherfucker's
to
got
dial up the existential threat of the ring and Sauron to like an 11 when like
mm-hmm.
it's already at an 11 in the book.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing, is like you don't need to dial it up. And it's one of those like, I don't know if it's a Hollywood executive thing going like, well, movie audience stupid, so we need to spoon feed them things and make it like super palatable for like the dumbest of our audience members, even though they think all of us are stupid anyways. I don't know if it's that or what, but it's just the fundamental misunderstanding of how the ring works. And I don't know if it's technically that feels like maybe I'm misspeaking. I don't know if they fundamentally misunderstand it. And I'm
Well,
only saying that I don't remember because I haven't watched the movie appendices in so long, because they do, I know in there they do explain some things, and I can't remember if they go in the book, it's like a drug, because it's not, because it matters like who you are as a person, like we said earlier. Jane, you look like you wanted to say something.
yeah.
Well, no, I mean, everyone should finish up because then I can rant about my like general theory about the films.
I would love to hear that right now. I'm ready. Scott, you
Yes.
ready?
Go ahead. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
good.
so I have a general theory about the films. And bear in mind that I'm a massive Frodo fan. I did
Mm-hmm.
not like what they did to Frodo. I have not seen the films in probably 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see them many times as a teenager, so I'm qualified here. But my theory about the films really relates to the conversations that Frodo has with Faramir.
Oh boy.
So
Oh
Faramir
boy.
explains a bit about Boromir's character
Mm-hmm.
and what Boromir is like. And Boromir is he's and of course the reason why Denethor likes him too, Denethor and Boromir are not alike at all.
Right.
But Boromir is a valiant warrior. He loves being a valiant warrior.
Mm-hmm.
He has this sort of he gets along really well with the folks in Rohan. Eomer is really sad to hear about Boromir's passing. He's got a real like brothership, kind of brotherhood feeling with the folks in Rohan. My theory about the films is that the story has been Boromirized. And what I mean by that is that Boromir has a specific understanding of the world and what it is to be a good person and worthy. And part of that is being a valiant hero, being a practical, real world kind of guy. I mean, he doesn't understand Frodo's reluctance to give up the ring or to take it to Minas Tirith. Boromir's perspective is a little bit explained by his brother, but I think that the films have that perspective generally, in that the story of Lord of the Rings has been, in the films, the plot is pretty faithfully rendered, but it's rendered through a lens as if Boromir or someone like Boromir had told it. And so that type of perspective is continually applied. We see Frodo, of course, being denigrated, but Boromir doesn't understand what Frodo's doing. Aragorn becomes more like Boromir. He's more doubtful. He's less lofty. We get far less of the elves. I don't think that Peter Jackson understands the elves very well, and I really don't want him touching any stories about elves, because I think he makes them more human, because the human stories are the strongest. The parts in Rohan are the best parts of the film. Those characters are the most faithfully rendered, the most beautifully done. The whole sequence in Rohan, it's gorgeous and really, really hits. But I think that's partly because the film's perspective has been altered. And Faramir, of course. Oh dear.
Oh boy. Everybody drink. Cheers. Oh,
Faramir's gonna. I'm glad he's a healer because he's gonna kill.
He has a totally different character.
By the way, the Elvish way to say cheers in Quenya is Elmian. So Elmian.
Oh, Elmian.
I almost forgot that. I need to write that down too, so I can say that at the beginning.
Anyways, yes, Boromir's brother is let's try and be safe here, folks. His character has changed to be more like his brother too. That the conflicts, the choices he makes make sense through a Boromir worldview, but they don't make sense through that alternate worldview in which what is most important is not being a warrior. And Tolkien is pretty clear throughout the books that that is not the highest aspiration. There's one thing in the film, in the book, which is absolutely critical, and that is the whole episode in Houses of Healing. That is Aragorn's big moment. What makes Aragorn the king is not the fact that he leads a big army. It is not the sword of Elendil. It is the fact that he is a healer as well. And also he won't even go into he doesn't want to go into the city. He is he's coaxed into going, but he will only go under shade of night, and he will be disguised because Prince Imrahil urges him to go in to the Houses of the Healing and talk to Gandalf and heal those that are in need in there. That's a super critical part, and I love that about Aragorn. And also later when he is talking to Faramir, drink. Oh no.
And he says he won't even enter the city unless the people unanimously decide that he can be their king. Then he has Boromir's brother go up and ask, and they all cheer for him, and then he walks in. Anyways, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No worries. But yes, I mean, that Houses of Healing episode is so essential. And does that even happen in the films? I think that maybe in the extended edition there's like a brief
Houses of the Healing thing. Aragorn does heal a little bit in there, but it's mostly about Eowyn and Boromir's brother.
Yeah. So I mean, that again is like part of where the plot has mostly been faithfully followed, but like the most essential pieces for understanding what the book is actually about have been left out or altered in ways that change the perspective. And of course, like there's all sorts of like little details, and mostly things that I hate. So obviously that I'm very biased in this, but like that maybe a Boromir figure would not understand. Like, I really hate the Army of the Dead. I hate that. I hate it very much.
I'd rather the Army of the Dead than the elves at Helm's Deep, and then they just
I hate that too.
And then after Haldir dies, they're just gone.
Yeah, like what is this? No, but then if that again is like, we know more. This is partly why I don't want Peter Jackson dealing with elves. I've had too much of this cider. I'm a total lightweight, and now I'm becoming incoherent. But
no, that's the point of this is to get It's to just have fun
You do
and like
get
if
you're
we get
talking to two very ADHD people. There is no tangent you can go down that we can't follow or help you get back to. So you do
We'll
your
try and
thing.
try not to get too chaotic. But yes, I
No,
mean
go
get
for
as
the elves at
chaotic as you
Helm's
want
Deep,
here.
I hate that.
So do I.
I hate the Army of the Dead. But like again, Peter Jackson does not understand the elves. Boromir doesn't understand the elves. He thinks that Lothlorien is creepy and weird, and he's really disturbed by it. Obviously, the folks in Rohan have a weird idea about it too, which is why Gimli needs to school them with his axe. But no, I'm not going to follow that tangent.
Do it,
like
do it,
seeing
do
a
it, do it,
squirrel
do it.
flying across. No,
Do it,
I'm
do it.
gonna set it aside for the moment.
Okay,
So I was trying to stay focused. But
Fair.
the Army of the Dead, I don't like that. Obviously, it undercuts the sacrifice that the Rohirrim make. But also, like
Yes.
in the book, what happens is that Aragorn won. He's gathered up the men of Gondor, so like they get a stake and a role in the battle. But also,
I'd love a
he's
steak after
sailing up the
battle.
river. He's not going to make it in time. And what happens? There's a wind, a cleansing wind from the sea, which blows the ships up the river just in time for him to arrive. And I'm like, I love that. And I love that
Manly.
because one, it's beautiful, but also because it shows you like a picture into the wider myth, the wider legendarium, right? And a wider part of the world to say like the Valar never abandoned Middle Earth.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, but
it's hard to say. That's a whole different episode because did they or didn't they, or are they just like we're gonna be hands off until like you super need it?
Well,
Like in the
Tolkien
11th
mentions
hour or the 25th, is it the 11th hour? I don't know the fucking phrase. In whatever hour at the last minute, I guess we'll just give you a little nudge and help out slightly.
But that's what that is the role. And I mean,
That's
and what was that letter 246? Tolkien talks a little bit about like the role of that sort of grace right at the end, that we have a role to go to the utmost, right? To do as much as is possible with our own capacity to reach as far as we can. And then the grace is at that moment when it is not enough, there will be assistance. And this is all very Catholic too. So like, I mean, obviously he's pulling on different things, but like, I see that and I'm like, oh yes, of course, we try our best. We do everything we can do in the world. We have the freedom to choose our lives and to live them. And that means that commensurate with that, there's a risk, there's hazard. But if we do as much as we can, if we bring everything we can for good, that there will at that point be grace for us too.
That's such a great read. I'm so glad you said that. Thank you. I just, my friends and I generally, well, Scott's been there for some of it on my lives. We get in these like, the Valar just like abandoned Middle Earth or Eru doesn't do shit. But like when you saying that, like that actually was a very hopeful. I'm so glad you said that because that was a very That's the Estelle. That's Estelle that Finrod talks about in Athrobeth. That's
oh no.
drinks. Oh no. I accidentally pushed play on my for Frodo. Oops, that's 3.
Oh dear.
I just took a big one.
Yeah. Well, I counted it for you. But you made me think about when they're in. Oh God, where does he go? Does he go down to Umbar? No, it's the Corsairs. Are they in Pelargir? I can't remember. Wherever the Corsairs are. Wherever the Corsairs, I can't remember. You made me think of when Aragorn is down there. This is something that would have been really cool, and I know it doesn't like serve the plot of the story, but Aragorn freeing the slaves of the Corsairs, and like he doesn't even ask them to fight for him. He's just like, you can do what you will, and some of them decide to fight for him. I was like, that would have been such a fucking cool. That would have been better than the Army of the Dead.
It would have been really great.
That's so much more hopeful than like we're gonna bring these dead guys and then they're just gonna be gone after they Deus Ex Machina the Battle of the Pelennor.
Well, that's the whole. I felt like they spent 9 years saying goodbye at the end of the movie. You could have taken that time having people fight in the Battle of Pelennor Fields instead of having just the Army of the Dead go through. And then now you're going to get down to all the minutia except the scouring of the Shire at the end of the movie, right?
Oh my God!
Like I know
so
it's
mad.
like
It's so
they missed the point.
It's so
Well, yeah.
anticlimactic. I don't care if it's anticlimactic. It's an important chapter.
No, yeah, and
It's probably
oh,
the
sorry.
four hobbits, like their most important chapter, because now they're
Yeah.
by themselves dealing with things that are not as big as they were, but it shows that they've grown and they can hold their own now. It shows the change in them, which is why like the end of the Jackson Lord of the Rings is just kind of meh until you actually get to the Great Havens, and then you're like, okay, now I can cry because I just spent like 12 hours with these people.
Yeah. Well, and too, like the hobbits, Merry and Pippin especially, like they spend a lot of the time feeling inadequate, like baggage. Merry is really depressed going
Mm-hmm.
into the Battle of Pelennor Fields, right? He's he doesn't recognize Eowyn. I don't know how that's possible, but he's in his own head. He's feeling really bad about things.
Probably.
He's baggage. Pippin is like, why am I not useful? And then at that last battle, when they're before the Black Gate, he's thinking like it's hopeless, and I'm just
He
this
saves
little
Baragon
guy.
from the troll,
Yeah,
but
he's
then
so
also almost
great.
dies.
I love Pippin.
I
But
know
like when
Pippin's
they
my
get to the
favorite.
Scouring of the Shire, that's a task that's like actually Hobbit scale.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and then you see like they're not just useless baggage. I mean, they see themselves as not being that too, but also like
yeah.
we see that as a reader, like, wow, Mary and Pippin and Sam, they're not just like weak little hobbits in this vast world. They're actually they're actually like really capable. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting when they get back to the Shire, I don't know which one of them it is. Mary or Pippin says, "Oh wow, it feels like no returning like this. It feels like we're waking up from a dream." And Frodo says, "It feels like we're going back to sleep." And it's
Yes.
interesting how like Frodo no longer belongs, but like the others,
Mm-hmm.
they do belong. They've come back to a reality where they're stronger and better.
Yeah.
And of course, they all get their happy ending. Frodo does not. Poor Frodo.
Did you say poor or four?
I said poor, but we could pour some of this.
Yeah, for Frodo.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's that would have. Do you know that they had such an opportunity to do one of the coolest things with the hobbits, with Merry and Pippin being so big, and, like towering over the other hobbits, and like obviously not being as tall as Saruman or Wormtongue, but like being like imposing, a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
imposing. Like that would have been so cool, especially around like the other ruffians. I assume the other like orcs are like shorter, like dwarf size, and at this point, Merry and Pippin are basically dwarf size. That would have just been so cool to like have them roll up on the hobbits that are like siding with Sharky, quote unquote, and his ruffians. Um, to have them run up, not run up, but like just slowly walk up, and they're like ominous and imposing, and for the hobbits to be like, ah, shit, damn it. Hey, Master Peregrine, Master Meridoc,
Mm.
what's up? Thought you were gone. And they're like, yeah, we were. The hell are you doing? Nothing. Actually, the fact that they talk back to Merry and Pippin in the books is a little funny too, because like it's hobbits doing this,
Yes.
and they're like,
Hobbits are a little sassy.
yeah, hobbits really are very very sassy, especially those Bagginses.
Mm.
Mhm.
I really miss the Scouring of the Shire because there's so much good stuff that happens in there.
You know, you really could do a pretty good, like maybe 100-minute movie of just that chapter because
See, this is yeah,
it's got a full like
Well,
got a
narrative
beginning,
arc
middle,
to
and
it.
end. Yeah,
and I
Yeah.
think too, even for me, when
you'd
the
have to
first
add
time,
you'd have to add part of the Great Havens in there,
even
Yeah,
when I,
at least.
maybe. Or no, you'd end it with Sam's wedding.
Yeah, yeah, it's in the Great Havens. Yeah. Because then they talk about like the gaffer making the best ale, and it's 1420 ale because they're doing Shire Reckoning.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Scott?
not just like the chapter, the Scouring of the Shire. If you can remember the first time you read it, because I alluded to this earlier about how they come back from being in the world of big people,
Mm-hmm.
fighting world of big people things, and they
Oh, you're out, huh?
when I talk about coming
Well,
into their
not
own,
quite.
and how cool it was. Like even as the first time I read it,
Mm,
watching them come back to the Shire, and then them realizing, oh wait, like we can handle this, like because they have sympathy for their fellow hobbits because they again aren't so far removed from being little people, feeling like little people in a very big world
right.
that they can remember how their other hobbits felt, getting trapped into this, which was cool for him to come back and go like, hey, listen, we're kind of badass. We can do this. Like y'all too. Like y'all are badass too. I just really like that part where they kind of where that all kind of comes again, where they even realize
Mhm.
their badassery,
Oh
right?
yeah.
You know, and I think that's so cool. It's like,
I love that Merry and Pippin are just so down to brawl. They don't give a shit. They're like,
yes, that's what I mean. Like they're like, because
Mary's like, I'm gonna go get the boys over here. Pippin's like, I'm gonna go to
yeah,
Tuckborough. I'll be back in the morning.
well, because look
Sam's
what they
like,
did.
and even Sam's down to brawl. Sam's like, hold
Yeah,
on, I'm gonna go to Farmer Cotton's.
Sam is really down to brawl. He's
yeah,
not
Well, the
happy.
funniest part though, the funniest part is Sam like pretends like he's actually gonna go like get the cottons and the maggots, and really he's just going to check on Rosie like a little simp,
Yeah.
which is adorable. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
no, yeah, I love it too. But like,
And even Rosie calls it out. She's like, "Oh, I just wanted to check on you and your family," and she's like,
Mm,
"And my family, huh?"
mm.
Yeah, that
She's
little
like,
like
where
knowing,
have you been?
yeah, that little knowing
right.
smirk. Yeah,
Mhm.
like after Tom and his sons have gone to like meet up with Mary and everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that part. I'm sorry,
No,
Scott. I talked over you.
no, it's okay. It's just a fun part about the whole thing. Again,
Yeah.
them realizing
Hmm.
who they were and how they came into their own. Because like again, how not that they weren't scared fighting in the Scour or the Shire, but can you
Hmm.
again imagine all of a sudden you're around? Imagine being in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, the Battle of the Black Gates, right? Like Mary has been in all this stuff, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden he's like, "Oh, look, it's just orcs." Right?
Well,
You
he's up against fucking Oliphants. He went up against the
yes.
Fellbeast, not specifically against, but he was like right there by it. The
Yeah.
Fell Beast and he fucking
Stabbed the
stabs the
Witch
Witch
King in the
King.
Yeah,
leg.
after that, it's
Granted,
like, well,
right? Granted, it was a sneaky behind. Like he wasn't
So
looking,
what?
but whatever. He still was right. He still
still
felt the
counts.
fear. He still felt the fear. It does say that he felt the fear. And
Hmm.
then Pippin fighting a troll
Yeah.
Yeah.
and winning,
Yeah.
and then
That's what
being
I
pulled
mean.
out
Like,
from
and they're
under it
gonna
by
go back to the
Gimli.
Shire, and
Yeah.
they're like, "What the?
Yeah, the Shire has
Okay.
to totally be small potatoes. He's like, humans, I got it. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably
And
why
what's
both Mary and Pippin are like, hold on, guys, I got this. I'm gonna fuck these motherfuckers up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they're no problem at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's funny because like again, like I was saying, they see themselves that way too, because they don't see the importance throughout the story. But like there is no story without those hobbits. Like
yeah.
I mean, obviously Pippin does cause some interesting things to happen. Dear
Listen, you
Pippin.
don't get Gandalf the White without Pippin being a fucking kid and doing things he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah,
I will stand
exactly.
Pippin till the day I die. He's my favorite from the Lord of the Rings.
Well, like
I
when
miss.
they're walking through the Shire, right, and they come across they're hiding from the Black Rider, and then the elves show up, and the
Mhm.
elves are like, ah, yeah, hobbits are boring, and Pippin's like, hold my beer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
He's like, tell us about the Black Rider,
yeah, Pippin,
and they're
and I
like,
love and that you miss. It's unfortunate that you miss this much context with a film, and I understand why you lose this much context, but the fact that Pippin is basically like a 17-year-old going on this trip is a huge deal. And I mean, I love Billy Boyd, and honestly he did a phenomenal job with Pippin, but like if Billy Boyd had been like actually 17, it probably would have been even funnier to have Pippin
yeah,
along in this. Like, first of all, Gandalf, dude, the fuck are you doing bringing a child along? Like that's a hobbit
Right.
child still.
yeah. Elrond is
Right.
like, nah,
Right. Elrond
Mhm.
has sense and is like, listen, Meriadoc and Samwise, I get it. Frodo is obviously going to carry the ring. Sam says he's going to go because he loves Frodo. I can't separate a couple like that. It's wrong to do.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Mary, we'll let him go. He's at least of age. Whatever. We're going to send one back to let everyone know what's going on, which probably would have stopped the scouring of the Shire. Because
who knows what would have happened?
Elrond is incredibly smart, and
Yeah,
foresighted. So he's like, yeah, we'll send Peregrine back. And Pippin's like, you'll have to fucking tie me up in a sack, you motherfucker. And
Yeah.
I forgot my book's almost gonna fall. I pulled the letters down. And then he's like,
oh,
fine, whatever, fine, go.
yeah,
You shouldn't go. Like even Elrond knew. And Gandalf
Yeah.
was like,
yeah.
come on, let him go. It's like the
Yeah,
one time Gandalf actually like stands up for Pippin, which is kind of cute.
Yeah. But we're
Gandalf
getting.
really just like definitely recruits by intuition though. Like,
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. I mean, Gandalf does love hobbits. That one's a drink. I do love how, God, it is like all Gandalf's plan, and that's it. That was the other thing I was going to get at with the films, is shifting the focus from the Hobbits' story. Like I'm just going to speak like Smeagol now, from the Hobbits' story to just Frodo's story, and also centering it on how terrible the ring is instead of like how hard the journey is and like the weight that crushes down on Frodo. I think that's what changed so many things in the film. And like I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. I love those films. They mean so much to me because of just a ton of things. Like I've met so many friends through that. It helped introduce me to like the larger legendarium of the world of Tolkien. I almost forgot to put the L in his name. I just want something that's a little more faithful. And I know people are gonna be like, "Well, if you're super faithful to the book, it might not be good." Okay, let me see it at least.
My theory about like adaptations is like kind of radical in that obviously the estate is very much like the precious with the works, which is
Yeah.
understandable, but like they're
Mhm.
in an interesting position right now, which they won't be in forever because eventually it will be public domain. But they're in an interesting position now where
Public domain got pushed back because of the will, I believe.
yeah, but still, I mean, like it was
Tolkien's
not
and
forever.
Christopher's. We will be
Yeah.
dead by the time it's in public domain.
Yes, but like hopefully humanity will not be dead. I'm not so sure anymore, but like
We'll find out.
we'll see, or we won't see. I hope to
If we
not
make
see.
it to
Um,
Thursday, I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
good God. But no, like they have an interesting position where right now there's a certain amount of rights that exist in the world that corporate entities control. But the
Right.
estate could license things very piecemeal,
True.
like thing by thing, and really encourage weird stuff. Like I want to see weird adaptations. I don't want to see like
Yeah.
more big budget corporate thing. I want to see funny artists with like interesting ideas, wacky
Mhm.
takes on stuff, adapting just pieces of things, or even stuff that's like not like even in the Lord of the Rings or the Silmarillion, like weird stuff, alternate versions. I don't care. I want to see weird stuff. I want to see interesting takes. What I
Yeah.
obviously my dream thing would be like a Studio Ghibli style adaptation of the version of Baron and Luthien with Tevildo. I think that would be awesome.
Oh, old school. Okay.
But like, I mean, you could do. There's so much material that you could play with and do interesting things with, and I think that would be almost more fun to see like endless versions of maybe the same thing in different ways or different
Mhm.
artists take on very obscure pieces.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting to see because again it's like we live in this weird era right now where we've got lots of corporate media and then also this advent of AI, which is horrible and is the work of Morgoth, and those things are taking over, and
Mhm.
it's really important, even more important than ever, to encourage artists
Yeah.
and creative people to give them the freedom to express what it is to be human. And obviously that's the whole point of art, and so
Yeah.
um
And even
yeah,
Tolkien understood that. Other minds and hands, you know? Like he knew that other people were going to take his works and turn them into something else entirely, or be inspired by them, expand upon them. There's a letter where someone wrote about asked permission to, I think it's the Hobbit, to compose something to the Hobbit, and he was like basically like, hell yeah, I wish I was that talented to be able to create music in such a way that the way you're inspired. So yeah, absolutely, I would love to hear it when it's done. Like he knew.
yeah. And there's so many cool opportunities that exist with this
Hmm.
material that would be really fun to see and to see what people would do.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly talented, um, and I love seeing other people's work. Like it is a great joy. So
Yeah.
Wasn't that
I
his
would.
goal though, to kind of write a complete like thing, right, for people to springboard off of? Like he wanted to
There
kind of,
are
wasn't that kind
certain.
of what he kind of wanted to do, sort of like that's why he was okay
So
with other people doing other stuff.
yeah, I was gonna say that. So the other minds and hands letter, he's talking about how, expanding upon certain stories and like just leaving other stories as is, like where there's just little mention of something instead of like explaining it for other minds and hands. Yeah,
Right.
that's
yeah,
that's the context
That's
of
what
that.
I'm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the context of when he says other minds and hands. He's talking about not completing certain stories so that other people can, if they
Yeah,
wish.
we don't need somebody else's interpretation of Fingolfin fighting Morgoth.
oh
Well,
no, Fingolfin was mentioned. Oh dear.
Oh damn it, he did.
And
do
you
it.
just did it again. Yes.
Thank God I brought so that mulled wine's gonna be gone soon, and depending
Oh
on how
no,
long
this
we
is not
go,
good.
depending on how long we go, I got a case of beer next to me too, just in case.
No, I'm like husbanding my little remaining.
I'm over here. I'm like, I've had like a third of a gallon, and I still don't feel very much of it.
No, yeah.
I am drunk, but
Are you really?
yeah, it doesn't take very much. It's very cheap for me, so this is why I chose this little bottle of juice.
Yeah, that is
but now,
one nice thing now about
now
not
I've
drinking
drunk
very
it.
much. I feel like we're definitely, we're standing up for Frodo appropriately. So,
Yeah,
like I still don't get. I'll bring it back. I still don't get. Like you said earlier, you didn't call it clickbait. What'd you call it? It wasn't even rage bait. It
bait.
was.
Oh,
It,
yeah,
no,
engagement bait.
engagement bait. And like I said, on one hand, I get that, right? Like make your money, but on the other side of it, like you can also make your money by, because if you gave an honest critique of the movies, like this is my honest critique of Frodo in the movies, and then you kind of just went on a rant about why you don't like him, why for all the reasons we've already stated, and why you like Sam better from the movies. Like I could, okay, right on. That's a valid take on that. But the dramatics, and specifically that one video of that whole thing,
I don't know if Jane knows that. Do you know that story, Jane?
I don't think so. No.
This girl, she goes off on this rant about all this stuff about Frodo, and at the
No,
very
no.
end,
She doesn't. Is that the same one I was talking about in my live where she flips off the Funko?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
She didn't go on a rant. No, she didn't go on a rant. What she did was she said, "This is my Lord of the Rings shelf. If you come over, I'll show you it, and I will also ask you who the real hero of the story is." And then she keeps going and showing the shelf, and she's got all these books, and then she's got the letters of Tolkien, and in front of the letters of Tolkien is a Funko Pop of Frodo that she flips off and then knocks it off the shelf and says the worst character. And
I'm like,
I was so
the
mad
main
at that.
character.
Yeah.
Did you even like this?
And that's because it brings up a point. What Scott's saying is making me think. Like you said, do you even read the books? And here's the thing: I don't care if they read the books, because if you don't like Frodo in the films, that's fine, because Frodo in the films is Frodo in the films. But when you make
he's not the main character either,
right? And when you make a blanket statement that Frodo is the worst character while you're showing the books, you're engaging people in a way that says, like, the book Frodo is fucking terrible, Sam is the best in the book, Sam is a fucking is kind of a jerk in the book sometimes. He's an obsessive.
It can be frustrating.
Yeah, he's an obsessive. I love that you're doing the fan right now, Jane. Like
you're
like your Louisiana
I mean,
I like it.
I'm like,
it's just when you make a blatant statement like that, and you don't denote, or however you say it, I don't
qualify it.
Thank you. I don't know words. When you don't qualify it and let people know that, like, the worst character in the films, like, he's not a fun character in the films. He is a little annoying in the films. I get it. I completely get it. But, like, when you make statements like that in front of the book, in front of the fucking letters of Tolkien, and then use who the real hero of the story is, alluding to the fact that you have read the letters of Tolkien, which means that you're going to try to use his words against a character that he wrote, but you're only going to go off of the movies. It's a fucking disingenuous argument, and I can't stand that shit. I'm on a high horse like I do in every fucking episode about something, and I'm sorry.
I would argue she hadn't read the letter. She's read the quote.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
because that letter says quite the opposite.
Yes,
and in fact, it even says, what does it say? They're simple-minded or something. If they think
Sam is the chief hero as conceived by simple minds.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Right.
Not that I've read that letter.
Telling on yourself there.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, well, it was like, you get all the comments from before that. One guy I responded to that on Breebird's thing, and I'm like, look, you're clearly not reading, and again, if you want to denote the movies and say that, man, have a hot take. We can joke around back and forth.
That's not even a hot take in the movies, though. That's the thing.
Well, you know what I mean, though.
I get it.
You know what I'm
like,
saying?
If you're saying Frodo in the movies is irritating, I get it.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying, though. Like,
but that ain't
Frodo. but yeah, that ain't Frodo number one. But to do this guy's the real hero and whatever, it is just, yeah, it's just disingenuous.
It is, yeah.
And like I said before, sometimes on the interwebs, you just gotta, like, again, like my like I said, the saying my grandfather had, arguing with stupid people is like getting in a puking contest with a buzzard. Like, you're just
Yeah.
not gonna win.
That's the
Oh.
most southern saying I could think of.
Yeah.
My granny would say you don't mud wrestle with a pig because you get dirty and
There's
the pig
that.
likes
That's
it.
very southern too.
Now, my favorite one, the guy that got me into Tolkien, his mom had one time. We were all of us that hung out at the bookstore ended up working at the game shop / bookstore where we all kind of, and it was after hours and we had keys. And so we were in there, we had smoked some weed and playing games and stuff in there. And she was there. And one of the funny, I said, man, I wish we had this. And she just went, well, if buzzards had jukeboxes in their asses, we'd have music in the sky.
Oh no!
Why does that feel like a line the gaffer would say?
And I'm
Well,
like,
I mean, obviously not as crass, but
like, can you repeat that, please? I would like to make sure I remember. So yeah, dude,
that feels very much like a gaffer line, but like
oh yeah.
That's so funny.
But I get, like, whatever. It's yeah. If you're gonna okay, well, we're on a podcast. I don't have to worry about it. If you're gonna say something stupid about a story that is so well researched and there's so much information from the author about things, and then you're just going to come out and say some dumb shit that clearly isn't like a thing that the author said, this is open to the reader, where he says this is the thing, then, like, how can I even, if you're going to say something stupid like that that's clearly delineated by the author, and which, when the author does leave some things up, like we've said, to interpretation, but then doesn't leave other things up to interpretation, I'm really not going to engage with you in a way where I remotely respect your opinion, because what you're doing is you're saying, I don't care enough to actually be well informed about this opinion I'm giving.
Yeah, and people get disingenuous too, when you make a good point, because this has happened to me. When you make a point that, like, is irrefutable, technically, like, based on like things the author said, and like facts from the source material, they'll go, well, death of the author. Like, that's a fucking cop out. It's death of the author when there's not a lot of information.
It's convenient.
It's like,
yeah, exactly. It's death of the author when there's not enough information to know exactly how the author might have felt, so you're allowed to then make up your own thing in your mind. Like, for instance, there's a lot of fan fictions about, like, stuff in the second age, stuff in the first age, because there's not a lot written, like, about how people interacted or whatever. Like a friend of mine has a headcanon that I think it's Caranthir met with, God, I can't remember who it was. It's not Anzrath. Someone, they slept together, and then he went back and told Celegor McCudafin that he got married because he slept with someone. And they're like, this idiot. That's fun, because, like, first of all, that's 100% what Caranthir would do. And the character, it might be Haleth. I think it's Haleth, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've heard this or seen someone.
Yeah, I think it's Haleth. Like, that's a fun little death of the author. Like, hey, Tolkien didn't say it didn't happen, so maybe it did. But when you're like, Frodo's a little bitch and Sam is the actual hero. No, motherfucker. Every single member of the Fellowship is a hero. Even Boromir.
Poor Boromir.
I know.
It was a test beyond him.
Poor Faramir's brother. Oops, drink.
Oh no, not again.
And that's one thing too. Like, I like Boromir in the books.
Yeah,
I do. I like him, because I can see, like you said before, I can see how he kind of just can't see past not using the ring for them, because they're like, we're the people fighting Mordor. We need this thing. Like, I get.
He's the perfect example of like, all I can think of to do to win this fight is to be stronger.
Well, and he's the most human character of the Fellowship. I mean, the hobbits are kind of like the hobbits are special in a way. Like they're not really
They're still
like
kind of like
human
these little
beings.
magical things.
They're a little
But
bit.
and
They're
they're
a little bit
so
special.
Yeah,
because they're
I
so
agree.
untouched by the world. Like
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
like they're so untouched by the world that
Mhm.
you know they like I said, them going out there is monumental to them,
Mhm.
right? Like we're going away from this nice comfort little thing where we know we're small and we know what we are, we know what we do, we're good at farming, we're good at doing these things, we're smart people, we do all this wonderful stuff, right? And now we're going to go out into the world of once they pass Bree, they are in a world that where people might have only maybe heard of Hobbit, right? And so, like, that's a big deal to them. Boromir is
Yeah.
very well traveled, very well out there. Like you said, he's, you know, he's a human dude, right?
And he's also in the mundane world. It's not
Yes,
mysterious things he's used to. It's like
yes,
practical things. Like when they're gonna go up Carothras, right? He's like, we should bring some wood along. Like
Mhm.
he's a
He's
real world
pragmatic.
dude.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Actually, I love that. I love that
Oh,
sequence
that was cool
in the
too.
book
Yeah,
where Boromir is just so big and so strong that he makes a path for them, and it's amazing. And then he's so big
yes,
and so strong when they decide to go down that he carries the hobbits down.
Yeah.
I-
I could have
yeah.
used Boromir the other day when I was shoveling my driveway.
Yeah, like that passage right there just tells you like how big Boromir was, how big of a person Boromir was. Like that dude was strong
Yeah.
as fuck. He was
Yeah,
like the strong men from like the 20s or earlier
right.
circuses. You know what I'm talking about with like the
Yeah,
Yeah.
unitard and
big
like the handlebar
mustache.
mustache. Yeah, they got those dumbbells with like the
Mhm.
circular weights on the
Yeah,
side. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know why I'm
Yeah.
like
for sure.
describing cartoons over here.
Yeah,
How much of the wine is left?
Yeah, yeah.
mm. Well, I think there's not a when, that's a great point too that you bring up that seems obvious that people should know is that all of them are heroes.
Yeah.
Right. Every single one of them heroes. Was every single one of them plays an important part
I was gonna say,
in.
name a character who does something that could have been taken out of the when they're the
You
fellowship
can't.
themselves if you have to, but like there's everyone does something important throughout the story, throughout their time. Like if you die, like Boromir dies, clearly, but
Mm,
he does some very important
he
things.
does.
You
Yes.
can't get places and do things without Boromir.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's just how it is.
the position that, as we look at like the larger history of Middle Earth, the position this story holds is right at the end of an age. And
Mhm.
like this is symbolically represented by the actions of the fellowship. Boromir, despite the fact that he dies, he plays a very significant role.
Yeah.
Aragorn, of course, has a very significant role. The hobbits have a very significant roles. On the other hand, the member of the fellowship who does the least is Legolas. Legolas is the elf representative, but this is the end of their age. The
Yeah.
elves are in fact waning. Their influence
Oh, that's
is
such a great
waning
point.
too. And
Mhm.
so Legolas has less to do. I still kind of wonder, like
I
my
mean, he
little
does
head
one shot of
here.
Nazgul. He does one shot of Nazgul.
He
A
does
flying
do
Nazgul
amazing
at
feats.
night.
He does do amazing feats, but like his
Mhm.
role is less, but then that makes sense. Though my
Yeah.
middle belief here is that Elrond, when he's choosing the members of the fellowship, he picks Gimli and Legolas partly because he believes that Aragorn will succeed and that having those friendships will be important for Aragorn when he's ruling Gondor.
Also, maybe he's trying to heal the rift that still exists between the dwarves and the elves.
Yes.
And being foresighted, he knew exactly who to choose because they did become lovers, basically.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. Elrond's playing all the games.
That's right. The story comes together or does not come together without Elrond and Gandalf. And I mean, Elrond is such an important character too. While he's not like huge in the Lord of the Rings story, like he's everywhere all the time.
He's in all the books.
He's also every single race of being besides orcs,
Yep.
which are basically just elves anyways. Well, or ents or eagles or I guess that's not a race. I'm just over here like trying to like I'm like playing devil's advocate against myself.
Have that argument.
Yeah, he's from the race of men, from the race of elves. I guess he's not dwarf. That's what he's not. And from the race of the Maya. I do this every fucking episode.
Maiar. It would be Maiar for that.
Yeah,
Maya
I know.
singular.
Yep,
Yeah.
I do that all the time. I always mess up the fucking pluralizations or the singular.
Those R's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do
I'm very
similar
fond
thing.
of Elrond, so.
Elrond
But
is
I don't like
phenomenal.
movie Elrond. I like more what they've done with Elrond in Rings of Power.
Movie Elrond was nothing but eyebrows, eyebrow
Yeah,
reactions.
he's like really grumpy too, and Elrond shouldn't be grumpy.
No, I really like Rankin and Bass Elrond, except the beard.
No
I
beards.
I
That's
like
just.
the well, there's only two dwarven nope elven beards that should be a thing, and that is Matan, Nerdanel's father, and Círdan. Any
E-
other elven beard, I will not be hearing of it. No, no, get out.
Um, Elrond in the movies, I felt was Agent Smith Elrond.
No,
Yeah.
totally.
You know, because he played him with that kind of,
You-
when he,
like that
especially when
weird
he goes,
stoicism.
our list of
Yeah.
allies is growing thin, and he has that little at the end of when he says it, and I'm like going like,
Oh,
easy there, Neo. Like, all right, simmer down.
I would say that's probably just him hiding his accent, but
Well, no, I know, but I'm just saying.
the
Yeah.
weirdest part, no, the weirdest part of Elrond is the race of men is failing, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like motherfucker, didn't you just raise one of them who is supposed to be like going to be the king that like
Yeah,
turns
Yeah.
everything around?
well, yeah. Then
That's the
it's like
dude you raised.
no
You
wonder
raised him.
movie Aragorn is doubting himself all the
Right,
time
right. He's got
because
all
all
his
you did were like,
his
you're gonna be
adoptive
king
father.
someday, but you bitches are gonna,
Yeah. Most toxic adoptive father
you're gonna
ever.
be the last
Which is
king of
terrible.
men
Which would be
because
terrible
men
because he was
suck.
adopted. He and his twin brother were adopted basically
Yeah. He knows.
by murder family. Maedhros drink and is it Morgafin? No, it's
Mhm.
Macalaure. Sorry, murder family. You know, Elrond and Elros are adopted basically. Not even basically, they are adopted by Maglor and his older brother, who is a
Yeah.
redhead. So yeah, that makes movie
Danger.
Elrond even worse. Like, dude, the kid that you raised
Yeah.
as an adopted son, you're just gonna talk down on, like whether it's
Yeah.
to his face or behind his back.
Mm-mm.
Like that's shitty as hell, dude. Fuck
I
you
do
Elrond just
love
doing?
kind
how,
of
like, regardless book or film, like
Mhm.
Elrond is kind of skeptical of the whole Arwen Aragorn thing, right? He's like, you got to prove yourself a little bit, buddy.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
that I'm
Grandma
fine with.
Galadriel is shipping them so hard.
Yeah, she is. See, that I'm fine with because at least he doesn't do what Thingol does. Fuck Thingol.
Oh, can't
Mm,
wait for
yes.
Because Thingol's over there like, listen, you can marry my daughter if you go up against this god and get one of those shiny jewels for me. Then sure, whatever. Because you'll
Yeah.
probably just die
Yeah.
anyways, which is
Oh,
rude.
he's like,
Yeah,
it's
I'm like,
gross
you know what?
because he's like unfair to Baron, and it's also gross because he is willing to sell Luthien for some price.
It's like doubly weird. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. God, fuck
Yeah.
Thingol. Oh boy.
Okay.
All right. Any other points you want to talk about?
I don't know. I'm like I feel like I had something about Frodo, but now I can't remember anymore because my brain was
What'd you do? Drink it away?
it's gone now. It's gone. And like the other thing I've been thinking about lately is how people are actually kind of unfair to Fëanor, and I feel sad for him too.
Ooh, let's talk about
But
that. Let's talk about that.
yeah. Well, so I mean, this kind of is poor Fëanor. Like,
Thank you, by the way, for using the Quenya. Go
well,
on.
he would have.
Y'all are
But
the
no,
first
like
people I've been around that have used the Quenya, so I can't. It's a hard.
I do it
shift
because
for
of
me.
David. Hey,
I know
if
David's
it's difficult for
brilliant.
you, do you have Blue Sky or Threads?
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky.
All right, go to David's profile. I'm pretty sure he's got
mm,
it pinned. He's got the names of everyone that in Sindarin and then also in Quenya.
No, I know.
yeah.
I know who y'all are talking about when you say it. It is my brain doesn't.
Yeah, you
You have
haven't
to right away
got
to
the
it.
Yeah.
you got to do the translator.
I
Yeah.
do it. I do it a lot because I talk to David I talk to David every day. And he refuses to use Sindarin. Like anytime he has to
Yeah.
use
I
it, he
know.
just
I
rolls.
love that
He
about
either
him.
rolls his eyes or
love
he
it.
like says it under his breath, or he does like a, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
not
got
mad.
very
I'm just
used to.
disappointed.
I got very used. I had to actually train my phone to put all the circumflexes and all that shit, all the accent markings in, for Quenya. Although, and every once in a while it doesn't work, and he calls me out. He did it on Threads once. I wrote Andunaic, and he was like, I'm sorry, there's a circumflex over that U, and I was like, shit, I missed one.
Uh,
Why do you feel bad for Fëanor? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Well,
want to know
so
why you
okay,
feel bad for him.
I do. So okay. I mean, obviously he's got various things that happen to him in his life, but when his father is killed,
Mhm.
like this is a tragedy, but it's also an unprecedented tragedy where the elves are living in a very blissful condition. Very few bad things actually happen to them. And even his mother, her passing is peaceful and by her own will. Like,
Right.
it's not, there's no violence involved. His father is killed suddenly. Like, Mythros comes in and explains what's happened, and Fëanor.
Well, Martha's
Oh
mentioned.
dear, oh dear.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah, he collapses. Like, he's overwhelmed with shock, and we can understand this easily enough. We live in a world that's full of tragedies, but they don't. And then he goes off to get revenge. Like, this is not what people should not be following this guy.
No.
He should be like given some like calming drugs and put in a quiet room for a while, and then he needs to talk peacefully with someone. Like, they should not be following him
They
off
should
on
have
a
given him
revenge
some
quest.
Mutavor and sent him to the halls of Mandos or the house of Nienna.
Yeah, that's what I
or
was saying. They should have
something,
sent
or
him
like,
to Nienna.
Yeah, it should have been Nienna. Nienna would have called his
somebody
ass
needs
down.
to take care of this.
I don't think
this
he would
poor
have
guy.
been. Yeah, I don't think he would have been smart enough to listen though, especially in that state.
Oh no,
I mean,
no,
but-
he's a total idiot. But like,
I feel sorry for him.
he's an idiot, but it's
fucking
not
idiot,
totally
but-
his fault. Like, and here's the other piece. Like, people hate on Fëanor and what he chooses to do, right? But leaders have a responsibility to lead wisely, to make good decisions for the people who follow them, and to not do evil deeds. But everyone who follows has a commensurate duty to follow wisely. And he did not force anyone to follow him. He couldn't. And like, nobody is forced in any of this to make any of the decisions they do. They make them freely and of their own will. And so everyone who follows him, it does it for their own reasons. And frankly, apart from Fëanor and Fingolfin, I suspect all their motives, because
Sorry, that was a drink. Go on.
I suspect all of their motives, because what he's saying to persuade them is, there are great lands over the sea. We can rule our own kingdoms. We'll be free of the influence of the Valar, etc. And this is very persuasive.
Why except for his first half brother, who I will not name again?
Because Fingolfin makes a promise. So, of course, the Oath of Fëanor is very potent.
Oh no, are we gonna do this? David, it's footnote 33. We had this. Oh god.
The Oath of Fëanor is very potent, right? It's like a gesh. It compels them. But Fingolfin swears another promise, and it is far less dire. He chooses to follow it, but he does it out of love. So he follows Fëanor out of love for his brother and to honor the promise he made to him to follow him. He fights Morgoth, but I think his choice to follow Fëanor and hold that promise, even with all of the things that Fëanor does, and Fëanor's contempt for him, that act of love is the greatest of his deeds.
Yeah, except thou shalt lead and I shall follow. But also then he takes the name Finwë Nola Finwë right after that drink. David's gonna hear this episode like in a month or two when this airs, however long this takes. And he's gonna be like, fucking asshole, I wasn't even there to defend him.
He's gonna be mad at me for not doing a better job. I think
but I'm saying that Fingolfin, right, he's a great hero.
Yes, he is.
I don't disagree.
Not just because he does heroic deed, but also because he acts so much out of love.
I don't
and
disagree,
loyalty.
but like he's also kind of a dick to Fëanor.
Yeah, in some ways. But I think like their relationship is not close, right?
No, it's not. But also,
so
like he straight up says, "Thou shalt lead, and I will follow," and then also changes his name to be Finwë Nola Finwë right after. Fuck, I did it again.
No, I'm running out.
Right after his father, right after their father is killed, and he knowing how mad that Fëanor is going to be, because he's already named his first son, third Finwë.
Yeah.
Which it's, I don't know. They have such a complicated relationship, those two, honestly. And then here's how do I get
Morgoth was in Fëanor.
Here's Galadriel's dad being like, fuck this, I'm staying here. I'm gonna be the Lord of the Eldar here.
He's the wise one, though. So that is the wise decision, right? That is the wise decision.
David
it's not the
say,
loyal decision or the
David
valiant
would say
decision.
It was cowardly.
It was not the valiant decision or the loyal decision or the
I
rashness
agree.
and all these characteristics they have in various measure, right?
Yeah.
And the fact is, he is wise. It is wiser to stay. That doesn't wise does not necessarily mean it is the most right decision, but it is the wisest.
I agree with you, but David yelled at me and said it was cowardly. And then
Yeah, well, he
I
has
think
his
we
own
laughed.
bias,
I
right?
haven't
So
watched him. Yeah.
But
I'm
could a
also
cowardly decision like that be wise? Like, what do you mean by wise?
I'm also
Like-
biased towards the House of Otta Finway drink because I love that house. I think that's my favorite elven house. Clearly, Finderato.
I think it was probably. I think it's Tolkien's favorite too.
He's one of the oldest elves, although he was named Finarfin to begin with.
Yeah. Well, and the fact is that, like,
Well, now I got to switch to beer.
oh dear,
I have a little bit
that
left.
so many. Who survives? Who in the end survives? And in the Lord of the Rings, which is what people would have read first,
Who in the end
right in that
survives?
first
Galadriel.
section, in the Shire, when they meet Gildor, whose house is he in?
Oh, that's the House of Finrod. I'm gonna take a drink for that. Well, off the rails. I've officially switched to beer instead of that wine I made because I'm out.
Oh no,
That's not going to
I'm
go
out.
well.
I am out. This is empty now. It is empty.
Oh no.
And the
I have a
bottle
little sip
is
left.
also empty.
Oh
Empty.
no.
Finrod
That's all
made
good.
it. It ended it. Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh boy. You did it again.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'll try
Yeah,
not
this
to
is
be. I'll have to switch to water. Maybe
switch-
that will
can I-
recover some of my wits.
There's
Probably not.
a question I've wanted to ask about Turin, and if we're switching rail, can I change?
Don't even have to ask.
Real
man.
quick.
Whatever.
Just do.
I was reading and I haven't even read the whole book of the Children of Hurin yet, you know, and so I bought it after I had read the Silmarillion a couple of times, and so like I haven't this time through the Silmarillion. I'm going to read the Children of Hurin and the Silmarillion, then I'm going to stop and read the book. But one of the things when I read it before, the preface and stuff with Christopher is that's where I got really first exposed to the more specifics of Tolkien's childhood and kind of how he's orphaned at 12 and all that stuff, and how. But one of the things that gave me loads more sympathy for Turin was how Tolkien wrote Turin. He identified a lot with Turin in that he, because of the events of his life, he felt trapped in like Morgoth is just fucking with Turin for whatever reason, and Tolkien felt that way kind of in his own life. Not kind of, I'm sure he did. Parents died, sent off to be. So the dude goes through World War One, and it's just like, how much bullshit does one person have to go through? I'm in a bet like Job almost, like if you know the story of Job,
I don't
where
know why my mind went straight to Arrested Development.
oh yeah, Job, the story of Job,
Gob,
Gob,
The story
yeah,
of Gob, yeah.
Gob.
Oh,
And so yeah, but where
for
it's
people
this,
who were not watching this, they would have been like, "What the fuck just happened?"
What the fuck is going on? Is he having a stroke? So, God dang it, I can't focus.
I've watched that show way too many times.
God, I love it.
I've never seen it. Maybe I should
Oh
watch
my
it.
God.
Dane, seriously?
It is.
No, I spent the
so
whole
good.
pandemic watching Chinese dramas. I'm like, don't even get me started. But
You
like,
should
I
watch
haven't seen.
the first 3 seasons of Arrested Development are phenomenal.
Yeah, when they
Okay,
came
I'll
back
have
to it,
to
it was like
try it.
more of a caricature of itself. But hold on, back to
Yeah.
Turin real quick before I get too derailed. Like, if y'all read that first part, did that give y'all it? Because Turin gets a lot of shit too. But I talk about getting more sympathy for a character when you read like it was almost as I read the preface, I don't know if he used this word or not, but it was probably almost like a therapeutic thing for Tolkien to write this story about Turin and how Turin was caught in the events of the evil Valar going, I'm gonna make this asshole's life miserable just because I don't like your dad. Just I don't like his dad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck with you the rest of your life and make your life tragic. And so when I read that, I was like, oh man, that makes me feel so much more sympathetic towards Turin because like Tolkien's kind of getting the shit out of himself in that story. And so
to an extent, good God, I hope.
Huh?
I hope it's only to an extent.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Like a therapeutic
Yeah.
kind of way to deal with the trauma of
Yeah.
what he's gone through, and especially
Did you make this question specifically for me, knowing you were going to be on the podcast? Because of how much I
no, I've
don't
had this
like
question
Tootin.
for a long time, and I've been too scared to ask it on a
Yeah.
live or something like that
Oh, dude,
because
don't be afraid to ask these
and
questions.
so well, no, I've just started getting all these, but so but yeah, and especially like me being a foster father and then adopting the
Hmm.
foster kid, like and then Turing going through that and knowing Tolkien's life and just how he felt shit on,
Yeah.
like foster
Yeah.
kids go through shit, man. Like but that's a whole other talk, it's a whole other podcast,
Yeah, it's
right?
well, God, that story is always. I mean, it is somewhat sympathetic. I wonder always how much like is the curse and how much is just like Morwen and her son who follows her like in personality so much,
Right,
having difficult personalities and
right.
struggling, but like they are not.
That's such a good point.
But they are not the choices they make. They're not
It can be kind of both
they're not
and,
evil
right?
choices. They're not evil choices. They're understandable choices. And
Right.
when you make choices, sometimes things go well beyond expectation, and sometimes they go badly for no reason that you can
Hmm.
control.
Right.
And the fact that, like, every time they make a choice, instead of it going well or just fine, it goes badly every time, even if there
Mhm.
were other alternatives for that choice. That is the tragedy, of course, and the curse. But yeah, I mean, that story is so interesting to me, partly because I know we don't like Thingol, but he and
Not
he's
necessarily.
but like in that story, he's when he's at his most sympathetic. That when the
Mm.
boy
Yeah.
is sent to him, he's like, I'm gonna adopt him, which is not something he does. Like he doesn't like men, he doesn't like strangers, and he immediately chooses to honor the child and give him a home. And
He is related to Beden though.
yeah, he is, but still, this is like a
Well,
big
but I mean,
thing.
like that would have been a big, because I had the same thought process too, and people were like, well, I mean, like first of all, look at how he treated Beden, and look how that turned out, and look at what happened to Luthien, his daughter, because of it, and then also Turin is related to Beden, so he probably would have been far more sympathetic to Turin, which is true.
Yeah, and it is true, but he is very sympathetic to Turin. And
Hmm.
also, when the misunderstanding happens and Turin leaves,
Hmm.
Thingol, when he understands the truth, he repents of it and he wants to apologize and make amends. That, I
Hmm.
mean, is a pretty that's very different than the Thingol we see a lot of the time in some of the other stories.
Yeah.
That
Well,
desire
losing
to
Luthien changed him very,
it
very
Mm.
did,
much.
but actually, Baron dying in his arms,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
that
Both.
also
Yeah. Both.
changed him too.
Yeah, because he caused that shit.
He did, but then he understood, oh, wait,
Oh, I
this
shouldn't
was
sell
bad.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was wrong. That was wrong. Wait,
Yeah.
there was some growth. There was growth there.
Oh shit! If I have another daughter, maybe next time don't sell her for a
Yeah.
Silmaril.
It's kind of
That's
interesting
a
how like the
wrap.
stories themselves are like kind of caught up in the logic of the genre that they exist in. So like Beren and Luthien is a
Yeah.
fairy tale. And there are so many fairy tales where the king sells his daughter for some there's impossible quest that must be fulfilled in order
Mm-hmm.
to gain this boon of the daughter. The way that Beren and Luthien is different is that Luthien's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go out and help them now. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, because Beren in that story is the damsel in distress.
He's like
He really
basically
is.
useless,
Yeah.
and Luthien
Which
is amazing.
makes me think that Beren has to be gorgeous as fuck.
He's very
Damsel in
ruggedly
distress.
handsome, very, very lovely.
Damsel in distress.
Yeah, everybody's
Yeah,
got time.
because she's been waiting for a long time. Like, there's lots of pretty elf dudes around, and
Yeah.
she's not interested in any of them. And then
I
Scruffy
mean,
Baron comes
Finderato
wandering
shows up
out.
and he's gorgeous. So,
Yeah,
like,
and
Oh,
I only have
yeah.
water now. Sorry.
Cheers. Yeah. Yeah, I got water.
it's all good.
Yeah, not interested in any of those guys. But
Joke's
then
on you. This
Baron,
podcast is just an excuse for me to drink in public and be okay. Like
That's all right.
people won't be like,
mm,
this alcoholic. They'll be like, I love your show. Nobody says that.
and then eventually,
Exactly. And then
we're
one
like,
day I
we're
go to the
all very
doctor, and the
worried.
doctor is like, you've got a fatty liver. You should probably stop drinking. I'm like, but my job. Sir, do you get paid for that? Do you get paid for that? Because they'll misgender me. Like, do you get paid for that? No, I don't. Well, it's not your job then. but I like
It's a
it.
vocation. It's a vocation.
It's a vocation. Exactly. Oh shit! I love how weird this podcast gets sometimes.
Oh, I shouldn't have drank all that juice.
Look, the thing is, the first thing is admitting you have a problem. So you have a problem, you never an
I'll never
alcoholic.
admit it. I'll never admit
Yeah.
it. I can
You're
quit
never an
anytime I
alcoholic
want.
if you never admit you have a problem.
I can quit anytime I want. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, you just want to avoid it when it gets yeah, it can get you don't. Oh my God, I'm going to derail us again. So I've been thinking about this a bit, right? And I think I mentioned in an email there obviously are beverages, delightful beverages in Middle Earth, and Thranduil has quite the extensive collection. He lives it up. Yes, he enjoys the good life. Right. My question is, where the heck is that wine coming from?
Yeah, do they make it? No, it's imported, isn't it?
It must be imported because they get the barrels from Lake Town.
That's
Are they
true.
getting it all the way from Gondor? Like, where is the wine growing region?
Holy shit. That's a question for Belmont. I guarantee you.
Mythgond would know too. I guarantee
Mythgond?
I bet somewhere Mythgond has a video on that shit.
Or Bard of Arda. Bard of Arda.
He had a whole series on like the economy of Middle Earth.
Fucking New Better probably knows too.
Oh yeah, New Better.
New people know.
Yeah, you know what though? Sauron really taking control of the east bank of the Anduin is going to mess with Thranduil's wine supply.
Why do you think Thranduil went to war?
It's like my wine.
A motherfucker only left Mirkwood for a shiny jewel, and because his wine supply got cut off.
It's gonna be like my cellar's
understood.
Empty.
That's a mood. I mean, Thranduil heard. Also, you're Lee Pace and you're gorgeous. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I kind of missed like in the Hobbit films, which I didn't really like that much, although there were some good moments. But like, I missed how the elves are kind of crazy. Like they're so serious in the film, but like in the book, they're like partying.
When they start like when they first when Bilbo and the dwarves first see the elves like in the distance, they see the fire and they hear the singing, they get close and they're gone, and then suddenly they're over there. You can't see my hand for those looking. And suddenly they're like off in the distance to like the left or whatever, and then they get close and then now they're behind you and to the right. Like and they're just like singing and have like magical fires that light up very quickly, and like it's just like their party, just like the whole party and everything there just disappears and reappears somewhere else. Yeah, that would have been super cool to see.
But yeah, I was curious about the wine, and I was looking in Nature of Middle Earth. I couldn't find anything about wine, except that the elves in Doriath were growing grapes. So they were making that first age of wine.
Oh,
in case you're wondering where it comes from.
The bottle that Celebrimbor broke when Annatar showed up.
Yeah, that's coming out. That's a Doriath vintage there.
Nice.
Probably.
That's that Lestinore.
Lestinore.
It's that Lestinore
imprint,
400 or whatever.
But I mean, obviously they would have had it in Valinor too, because everything grows there.
Right.
So of course, like, they would have had good stuff. I'm assuming they would have had like chocolate and also more chocolate.
Oh my God, you're making me realize that we need to do a food episode.
I'll
talk to Belmont about that. Belmont is like the big food guy.
There are some crazy food obsessive people though. Who do like food things. So
who would you want to have a meal with? Like, and like that's such a I love food. I mean, I'm a fat man, and
Jesus, you don't have to deprecate yourself.
I'm not. It's a fact. So,
for those of you who didn't see his face, go to YouTube and find Scott's face. It's hilarious when he says that.
And so like who you have a meal with, I'm like, and who wouldn't I want to have a meal with? Like that's like whenever we travel, that's my favorite thing to do. Like I don't want to eat. Well, of course, you travel with a kid. Guess what you're doing? You're gonna eat at fast food shit sometimes. But like, but at the same time, when I go someplace and I travel somewhere, I don't want chain shit. I don't want stuff I can get like, hey, let's go get a burger. Well, is it like like a special kind of local burger thing, or is it just a burger? Because I don't want just a burger.
Yeah.
And so it's what's awesome about my wife is she likes that too. She does not want normal stuff when we go somewhere. So
right.
I would want to have a meal in the Shire, right? I'd want to have a meal in Bree. I'd want to have a meal with the Wales. I'd want to have a meal in Rivendell. I'd want to have
that Elvish bread. Pippin says the Elvish bread is really good.
Yeah, but I'd want to have a
Honestly, I'd
meal
love to hang
in
out with
Rohan
Barlam and Butterbur.
Oh
Yeah, dude,
yeah.
he'd be great.
He
But like,
is
I would like to,
because he's so respected by Gandalf. If you're
yeah,
that
Yeah. And
respected
he's
by
also like a
Gandalf
nice guy. He's
and
normal.
have a
He's
terrible
yeah,
memory that Gandalf
yeah.
has to yell at you about, but you're that good
Mhm.
of a person that Gandalf goes, no, Butterbur's awesome. Like, I
yeah,
want to hang out with that guy.
yeah. I would want to have a meal in all of it. And so, who would you want to most?
That's very
Honestly,
southern of you, Scott.
oh yeah, I would probably want to the most with the folks in the Shire, right?
Mhm.
But like when you're talking to a Texan here, when he's like red meat off the bone, Gimli,
Mhm.
I'm just
Mhm.
thinking of like beef ribs, man. Like they're huge and
Mhm.
um
And
yeah,
tender, so right off the
yeah,
bone makes sense.
we call them dinosaur ribs here because they're just
Oh,
ginormous.
like
And
the Flintstones episode where it
yeah,
tilts the
like
car
literally
over.
one rib is about that long and the meat is that thick on it.
Hmm.
And like that, like on the rib, like that wide all the way down there.
Hmm.
There, yeah.
Damn it, dude,
So
you get me hungry. Stop doing
God, I
it.
know, and there's no 24-hour barbecue place. Well, it's worth a fuck. There's not one. I'm sure there's one somewhere. But
I'm sure
and
there is
so
too.
it's
Yeah. I'm sure
hard
there's
to
a McDonald's open selling a fucking McRib.
God damn it. Oh my God. The McRib, I'm glad it only comes on every few years because I forget how terrible it is.
It's so
And
bad.
Mhm.
I had it
it's
one time a
it's like,
couple of years ago for the first time, and I was like, "This is the most bullshit sandwich I've ever had."
oh yeah, it's so dumb.
I'm
And
not
it's like,
now. I will never get endorsed by McDonald's.
well, and now it's
Ah,
like,
darn.
and it's like Long John Silver's also like once every 7 to 10 years, I forget how shitty it is, and I'm like, God
I
damn it,
will
I want to
never
go get
eat at
some Long John Silver.
a fast food place that sells fish like as the main staple. No, thank you.
You better use
It's
quote
one thing
fingers
for
when you
like a
say fish. I'm not sure what. It's probably snake meat. I'm not sure what the hell it is.
I
they're
can
just
get
cooking
good
up.
fish and chips like everywhere. So,
Mm,
but then I mean, there are people fishing like off the pier here. So,
right.
You live you live right off the ocean. Of course, you're gonna have fish everywhere.
We went. Oh, when we went to San Diego a couple of years ago, we went to a place that was a New Zealand restaurant,
Mhm.
oh,
and I had the most awesome fish and chips. And it was right there on the beach.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd have known Dave
nice.
then, but like
Oh yeah,
but
he's from San Diego.
yeah, dude. And so oh, it was so good because it was yeah. Oh man,
They
my
have some
wife's
good
gonna get
fish in New Zealand.
yeah, my wife's gonna
Have you
get mad
been?
when I DoorDash something
Yeah, I
stupid.
have a cousin who lives in New Zealand.
You
So
gotta
I
hook.
got to go when I was
Man.
like 18. And it was a funny kind of
That's rude
time
of
to
you
go because
for
I
not
went to
inviting me and you
Hobbiton.
didn't know who I
Oh,
was.
by the way, I've been to New Zealand, mother.
No, I
Yeah.
went to Hobbiton. It was really cool, but like it was a weird time because it was between when they had finished, the Lord of the Rings films, but before they were even thinking about doing The Hobbit. And
Mm,
so they had taken away most of the sets. Like now I understand it's all cool and like you can do the
mm,
whole full experience, but there were basically just like wooden forms in some of the Hobbit holes, and then
mhm.
like lots of sheep because it's New Zealand and they're sheep.
Right.
But it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Honestly, like the funniest thing from that, I mean, seeing it was really cool, but it was like the location and you could like see the mountains that you could see in the film.
Mm.
But
Mm.
my mom and I did this, and the guy who drove the bus to get to the tour, he was this. There's some really funny people in New Zealand, some real characters, and he was definitely a real character. And he told us this story about sending his 8 and 10-year-old sons off boar hunting by themselves. They had a dog and a big knife. That was what they were
Yeah.
armed with. And he just sent them off into the bush. And he's like, it'll be fine because if you walk in a straight line for a while, you're going to run into a road. It'll be cool. And we're like, oh my God. But
That's cool. How old were you when the films came out?
I was in the 6th grade.
Oh my God.
How old were you in sixth grade?
So I would have been 11, 12.
Oh, okay. So you're about my sister's age then.
What year
About
did
Yeah,
movies
you
come
might be
out?
you might be slightly older. What's that?
Was it 2001?
20 yeah,
2001.
2001 is when the Fellowship came out.
And I
Okay.
was a little jerk at that time, shocking as a child of that age. And I just finished reading the Silmarillion, and I was like, I know about Lord of the Rings. And I was like, how dare they make a film of this? It can't possibly be good. I was one of those people. And so I never saw The Fellowship in theaters.
It's better than listen, my experience of seeing the Fellowship in theaters is this. Because you remember Harry Potter, God, I hate talking about Harry Potter, but it's
Ugh.
relevant to the story. Harry Potter and in America was the Sorcerer's Stone, and everywhere else it's not stupid.
Mm.
It was called the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, I called America stupid. We're all idiots. I don't mean you
It
two.
clearly, I
I don't
mean,
mean you two
there's just a
specifically.
mountain of evidence
I
at
just
this
mean
point.
like on average. But anyways, that film came out a month prior, right? They come out in November in the States, and December is when Fellowship came out.
Mm.
My little sister, I'm sorry, my little cousin had gotten into the Harry Potter books knowing that the films were coming out, similar to me with Lord of the Rings. And so she read that, and my sister was reading it, and we like as a family, like both families went and saw Harry Potter in the theater, and then by myself, well, I think I had like two other friends with me. I went to go see the Lord of the Rings. I was walking out of the movie from Lord of the Rings, and this fucking child, I've never wanted to hit or punch a kid in the face so hard. Like directly behind me, I hear, yeah, that movie wasn't really that good. At least Harry Potter had an ending. I almost turned around and punched this dude in the face. I called this fucking like 11-year-old a dude. I almost punched a kid in the face and said, like, the fuck kind of ending is love? Love saved me. Fuck off with that shit. I was so fucking mad in the theater because I almost like knocked this kid in the face and was like, this isn't the end of the story, man. Harry Potter's movie had a beginning, middle, and end. Fellowship doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end. It has a beginning. The ending is the middle, damn it.
Yeah, it is an intense ending though. You're like, what? Which is exciting. I kind of like that. But like this gets back to, I mean, let's tie this in a nice bow, right? So like we were talking about why people struggle with Frodo, right? And as a hero, but like he is a difficult character. I can have this much sympathy for people who struggle with Frodo, even Frodo in the book, that he's not a fun character. As I was
he's
reading
not fun.
through the
That's
book,
true.
like there aren't a lot of fun moments. He is really suffering.
He's
And
very serious.
he's very serious. As I was looking, I was like, is this going to be a fun episode of this podcast? We talk about Frodo and he's just like really sad all the time. He's a difficult character. Actually, like a lot of Tolkien's characters are difficult. We were talking about Turin, right? He's a very difficult character too. Like you have to work hard to like him. I understand why
it took me reading the
struggle.
Narn to finally have sympathy for Turin. For those who don't know,
you know, if
Narn
Beleg can love
Ihirin
him, then I
Húrin.
guess I can try.
Look, having
Beleg is the
sympathy for a
greatest.
character, having sympathy for a character is not the same as liking a character.
Yeah, it's
You
true.
know,
It's true.
like it just softens me. Like it softened me.
My thing is a joke. Like I don't hate Turin. It's just it's funny to be like this motherfucker
He's frustrating as hell.
is the reason that the bridge to my boy's kingdom, not a Castorando or not a Gothrond. I swear I'm turning into David.
It's infectious, apparently.
It really is. I was like, this motherfucker built a bridge to my boy's kingdom, which was just as secret as Gondolin, and got it destroyed. So fuck Turin. And then I read the Narn. God, how is it said? Narn Ihin Hurin. And I was like, good God, this dude fucking suffered. So yeah. I gained so much sympathy when I read the Narn. He
still made a lot of bad choices, but
yes, he did. But I gained a lot of sympathy reading the Narn. So I'm sorry, I totally.
And not everybody gets hit with a dragon. Come on,
that's true.
Like that is over the top. But no, I was thinking about Frodo. Right, he's a difficult character, and I've got a gazillion books behind me. Right, there are a lot of books with characters who are not like Frodo, who are most writers make their main character at least somewhat likable, or sympathetic, or admirable, or sexy, or something. Right, Frodo's none of these things.
Frodo's admirable.
He is admirable, but he's not sexy. Well, I mean, depending on your taste, I guess.
Well, Elijah Wood.
Yeah, Elijah Wood. Yeah, but I mean, we're talking.
I think
about,
you mean Elijah.
Book, right?
I think you mean Elijah Wood.
You know, he is old enough now to play Frodo. Like,
yes, he is.
Like
yes,
he now is the appropriate age, and you're like,
almost. He's born. I think he's born
but
in
like Frodo, Hobbits.
I think in five.
Slower,
I think in
so
5 more years. I think 5 more years. He's actually Frodo age.
Yeah, but like hobbits age more slowly, so I think like
true.
You kind of work it out. It makes sense to me.
Well, 50 is still middle age for them though.
So yeah, it is middle age. Well, it's middle age for us too, right?
Right.
Depending on the person.
It's like where they catch up to us.
Yeah,
they kind of. It's the only intersection between like man and hobbit.
Yeah,
I'm 51. I sure as fuck ain't middle aged. I'm not sure when I passed it, but I sure as fuck ain't at it right now. I'm just letting y'all know, you're past middle age at 50. You ain't living to 100. You know?
I'm
Oh,
hoping.
true.
I had one ancestor who
Shit,
lived
am I
to be,
middle aged
to
right
be
now, Scott?
109.
Yeah, buddy, you're there.
Wait, what'd you say, Jane?
I have one. My 3 times great grandfather lived to be 109.
God damn.
Are you a
He was
toque?
old.
Are you a toque?
No, but I could be.
Wait.
And you know,
What's your
my
3 times great grandfather Bandobras toque? Is it Bandobras or
no,
Brandobas?
but
I'm
he did
dyslexic.
he is somewhat he's like the only person in my family who's somewhat notable. There is a statue of him at Gettysburg.
Really?
Yeah, because he was the last surviving Civil War veteran.
That's cool.
Oh.
But he lived to be very old. The other funny thing about him, which I learned recently, but which is hilarious, and also kind of like, I mean, I know I'm going into like a very hobbitish genealogy kick.
I love it.
Because they love
Do it.
genealogy.
Yeah.
So when he was, so his second wife, he married when he was in his 70s. She was a young woman. He outlived her.
Good
And
God,
his children
what?
who were grown, at the time, they referred to him as the old goat.
Are you are a fucking hobbit? Jesus, Jane. I thought you were joking when you said that earlier. Apparently,
awesome.
we're not.
I've got a whole bunch of crazy like hobbitish relatives who are just very like,
yeah. Once you start digging
chill.
into your
I got
relatives-
another ancestress who declared her husband dead. He was drunk, but she declared him dead. She had him declared dead, like legally, officially.
Nice.
It was a thing you could do with your drunk
My
husband.
mom's side is from Arkansas.
I think in Arkansas.
Yeah, and the goofy shit. My great
Oh, Southerners are weird as shit, dude.
My great grandfather was a bootlegger and a U.S. Marshal at the same time. I have my great grandfather's pistols that he both upheld the law and broke the law.
Nice.
You know, that's a good gig, though. I mean, that's very.
If you can get it. Well, if you
he's like keeping himself in business both ways.
Well, listen, if you're ever
job security.
By the way, I gotta say, like I said, Southerners are weird. I mean that with all the love in the world.
No, I get it.
I am Southern by blood, not by birth. My grandmother was born in the South, so and I still have family in the South. I love Southerners.
Like if you
as
ever,
long as they're not hateful people, as long as they're not flying that stupid ass flag.
My 3 times great grandfather, he did fight for the Union, so we are not Southern in any way. Yeah, Yankees, purely Yankees.
I don't think my family was here during the Civil War. They weren't not in the South, not that I know of, anyways.
There weren't that many.
I don't know. I don't know for sure. I haven't gone that far back. I'm sure. Yeah. Listen, I'm white. I'm sure some atrocities.
I got my mom's side of the family back to England in 1653. But both sides of the family came over at around the same time, at around 1740-ish.
Yeah, I know my dad's side. I don't know my grandma or my mom's side, which is the southern side. My dad's side came from Ireland in the early 1900s, I think, or the very.
Would it be in the 1840s for by chance? That would have been the potato famine.
No, because it's my great grandfather. Wait, hold on. Yeah, it's my dad's grandfather. So. He was a bare knuckle boxer. I'm pretty sure it was either the very, very late 1800s or the early 1900s.
Okay.
It was not during the famine. My family that I am related to did not come from the famine, and also I have a very uncommon last name, even in Ireland. So
my last name is very generic, so that's great. But I do have a large number of Irish relatives, and I won't do those DNA tests because I think they're weird, although I think hobbits would like them. Like, this is the thing, like, they'd all be on ancestry.com. They're obsessed with that stuff. They all talk about it.
And the problem is all that data can get collected by the government, and I will never do that.
They sold that's the thing is 23andMe sold a bunch of the data to medical research.
Yeah, and I say I'll never do that, but like my parents did it, so like what the fuck is the point? Like I'm a
my brother
they have mine now.
Yeah, my
brother did it. It turns out we're Celtic of some kind or other. 100%. I burn in the reflection of the sun.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah, I burn in the moonlight. The hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's the pale face, if you please.
All right, so we've super derailed. I want to thank both of you for being here. This is really fun. We derailed a couple times, and I love when we do that. But in case anybody wants to continue the conversation or ask you guys any Frodo centric or any other kind of questions, where can people find you, Scott?
I am on right now. I'm on Blue Sky and TikTok, both Glamdring510. I might go back to the Instagrams. I'm not sure, but it's the same screen name there. But yeah,
Nice.
that's where you can find me.
Nice. What about you, Jane?
I am on Blue Sky and Threads. On Threads, I am Jane Ellen 17, and on Blue Sky, I'm just Jane Ellen.
Very nice. Well, thank you both so much for being here. I know you're both out of your alcohol, but I will cheers and
I am
say
out.
Elmian, which is
Man.
Elvis cheers. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Tolkien on Tap. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on any of my social medias. I'm on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at @the_Neej. Namarie.